LeBron James had 30 points, 10 rebounds, in the 108-102 OT win over Minnesota in the play-in game. The Lakers will now face the number 2 seed Grizzlies. Who is the most important player that you want to see in this series of Lakers-Grizzlies?
I would tell you, for me, y'all, it's Anthony Davis. And the only reason it's Anthony Davis is very, very simple. We know what he can do when he's on the court. And he doesn't have Steven Adams and Brandon Clark to deal with. Jaren Jackson is an absolute stud. I love Jaren Jackson, but he's prone to foul trouble. And so if I'm the Los Angeles Lakers, what I'm trying to do immediately is attack Jaren Jackson Jr. with Anthony Davis to try and get him in foul trouble. That's what I'm trying to do. It's just that simple. Of course, LeBron is big enough to try and pull that off his damn self. We all know that. But I'm just saying, when you think about Jaren Jackson and how he has to patrol that paint area because of the absence of 2 of their primary big men who's out for the season, that's really problematic for the Memphis Grizzlies. I think that's the Grizzlies' only problem, but it is a big one when you have to go against the likes of an Anthony Davis. He's got to play big in this series because, as far as I'm concerned, the only person that Memphis has that can remotely deal with him is Jaren Jackson Jr. But Jaren Jackson is prone to foul trouble. You attack him with Anthony Davis. That's why I say Anthony Davis.
You know, I watched you yesterday, Stephen A., and you gave a lot of praise to, you gave some praise to Dillon Brooks about, basically, wanting to go against LeBron James.
Yep.
And I actually applaud Dillon Brooks for speaking out, saying he want to go against LeBron James as well. But we also have to be realistic here. LeBron James is going to punish Dillon Brooks and whoever else they put on them from the Memphis Grizzlies. Because when I look at their perimeter players, they are too small. And when you talk about LeBron James that has aged and got wiser, right, in his toolbox, when you talk about him being able to go down to that low block and show that field-handy footwork that he's been working on, that is a problem. And that's going to be a problem in this entire series for the Memphis Grizzlies. So when I look at which player that I'm looking at that's going to be the most important and that's going to be probably the best player in this series, is going to be this 38-year-old LeBron James. Make no mistake about it. Because Memphis don't have an answer for him. Although you could look at Anthony Davis and say Jaren Jackson Jr. is the only answer, Memphis don't have one answer for LeBron James.
I can close my eyes and look into the future on Monday when, however game 1 goes, Molly is bringing up the fouls. There's going to be a topic on Monday on this show about the fouls. And if it doesn't happen Monday, it'll happen by Thursday, because the LA Lakers their whole offensive game plan is to get inside the paint and draw fouls. AD does it. LeBron does it. Austin Reeves, one of the best in the West at getting there and drawing fouls. And what is the game plan against Jaren Jackson, who I just voted for Defensive Player of the Year? Draw fouls. I'm telling you, Dillon Brooks is going to be complaining about fouls. Taylor Jenkins is going to be complaining about fouls. It's going to be, unfortunately, one of these throwback Phil Jackson series where there's going to be fines because there's going to be complaints about officiating, because that's going to be the case. And so with that said, to me, if Ja Morant plays like a superstar in this series, if Ja Morant is the best player in this series, Grizzlies going to win it, okay? They don't have an answer for him at that end of the court. The Lakers are a good defensive team, but their athleticism on the perimeter is shaky. And this is one of the greatest athletes I've ever seen in my life. They might even have to go to Jared Vanderbilt because they're not going to be able to keep up with him with speed. They may need size.
That's where I was going, Wendy. I was going to Vanderbilt.
So
I was saying
I just think that's a problem.
One of the greatest. I mean, he's an upgrade from Allen Iverson, if I ever thought that could exist. This athleticism is unreal. He is something spectacular and special, and I think it will require him to do it. But I will tell you that Vanderbilt, what is a legit 6'8", 6'9" or so, long arms, he's lanky, and can defend. That is somebody you will want on Ja Morant. Make no mistake about it. But I will say this, and I'll throw this back at the both of y'all, especially you, Perk. LeBron James won a championship a few years ago. What was their primary strategy? Get Anthony Davis the ball. What I'm saying to you is that everything you said LeBron is going to do, I believe. But what will precipitate it is getting the ball to Anthony Davis to help get Jaren Jackson out of there. So there's no help on the front line for the Dylan Brooks of the world, the Desmond Baines of the world, and others. If you get Jaren Jackson out of the lineup with Adams and Clark already out for the season due to injury, what possible hope do you have if you're Memphis in terms of defending from your front line in the interior? You get LeBron out there and he don't have Adams, Clark, or Jaren Jackson Jr., who averaged 3 blocks a game this year. He's also my defensive player of the year, Wendy. If you don't have him, right? If you don't have him out there, oh, my Lord, what possible hope can you have to defend against big boy play from LeBron and AD? So I think LeBron's going to use AD initially. Darvin Ham's going to use him. Get him the ball. Attack. Do what you got to do. And then LeBron finishes the deal. But that still might not be good enough because Ja Morant might go ballistic.
He might go ballistic, but again, let me explain something to you both, okay? When I look at this Laker team, they have been the best defensive team since the trade deadline. They have an identity. They've been had this identity. When you watch the play-in game against the Minnesota Timberwolves, I saw 2 separate teams in 2 different halves. And when I saw the Lakers put on their defensive clinic in the 4th quarter and hold the Timberwolves to 12, hold on, S.A., hold them to 12 points. See, everybody keeps saying it was the sloppy play, but nobody saw the fighting and getting up over screens. Nobody saw the active hands, the deflections. Nobody saw the adjustments that Darvin Ham made by putting Rui Hachimura and Jerry Vanderbilt on Karl Anthony Towns when he was on the floor and put Anthony Davis on Kyle Anderson. My thing is this. Hold on, S.A., follow my drift. Follow my drift 1 second. Gotcha. The Lakers shot the ball terrible. They made some terrible mistakes throughout the course of that game.
True.
I agree with you. But what we always talk about, and you know this as well, as a guy that was on one of the best defensive teams ever to win a championship, I'm looking at that Laker team and I'm saying they didn't shoot the ball well from the 3. They didn't play great offensively. They had careless turnovers, and they still found a way to win that game, even if it was an ugly win.
Okay. But let me
when I look at their defense, when I look at their defense at Ja Morant, I'm looking at Vanderbilt on Ja, and I'm looking at them load up boxes and elbows like they do with AD patrolling the paint. That's going to be a problem.
Okay, well, let me come back to you with that, and Wendy, help me out here. Let's not dismiss how awful Anthony Edwards was and how much of an aberration that was. I want to give him respect because we just started talking about Zion. This is the same Anthony Edwards that talked about the importance of being on the court no matter what. So let's give credit where credit is due. That brother was on the court. He clearly was not 100%, and that may have played a significant role in how awful he was from the perimeter. It got to a point where he was just trying to lay up. He just went to the lay because he couldn't make a damn jump shot to save his life. So we got to take that into consideration, 1. And number 2, I think we all know Minnesota can't shoot like Memphis. I think that's safe to say. So whatever the Lakers were doing, not taking any credit away from them because the defense, but Memphis could shoot. And last but not least, KP, Bryant, we both, all 3 of us acknowledged on numerous occasions, once that trading deadline expired and they got the pieces that they got, Lakers had one of the weakest schedules in the league. You going up against some legit boys now. This is not the same dudes that you were facing on your schedule in the latter part of that season when they were one of the top teams with defensive efficiency.
Yeah, I understand that, S.A., but guess what? The Lakers were also without LeBron. Go ahead, Wendy, I'm sorry. They was also without LeBron.
The Lakers they're gonna take some shots from the Grizzlies in the face. But this is going to have – the Lakers need to turn as many games as they can into what we saw that Minnesota game, where it is a half-court fight. That's where they have the advantage, and that's what we're going to see if they can do this weekend.
All right, one more quickly here, guys. The Western Conference playoffs